Parker Schnabel just pulled off the impossible, $120 million in one season, shattering every Gold Rush record ever filmed and leaving every rival stunned silent. This isn't hype. This isn't speculation. This is the season where the numbers went so high the crew thought the scale was broken, where one day alone cleared over $1 million, and where every collapse, every malfunction, every risk pushed Parker straight into mining legend territory. What he uncovered this year wasn't just rich ground. It was the kind of geological jackpot miners spend entire lifetimes chasing. And somehow, he hit it all in a single season that no one believed he could pull off, until the gold hit the table and changed everything. Before we dive into this insane new chapter of Gold Rush, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. The story opens with something different in the air, something Parker can feel in his bones long before the first excavator track hits the ground. It isn't excitement, it isn't confidence, it's tension. A quiet unease creeping under his skin, whispering that the ground beneath his boots is shifting in ways he can't quite read. He stands there at sunrise, breath hanging in the cold, staring across a stretch of untouched land that looks ordinary to everyone else, but not to him. Because for weeks, rumors have been drifting across camps from old-timers, explorers, even rival crews. Rumors about a geological formation so dense, so irregular, that miners are saying it bends the rules of placer gold. No one has seen it up close. No one has dared go after it, except Parker. When the first drone scans come in, even he has to stop and steady himself. The images show shimmering pockets buried deep under layers of overburden, pockets the size of ravines, each one holding ancient sediment that flows in strange, curved shapes, almost like rivers trapped in stone. They don't behave like normal pay channels. They don't line up with historical mapping. They seem alive, like something frozen mid-movement, long before humans ever walked these valleys. Parker studies the footage frame by frame, jaw locked, eyes unblinking. He knows what the others won't admit. This ground is either the greatest opportunity he'll ever have, or a trap meant to destroy anyone reckless enough to try it. But that's exactly why he bets everything. Equipment, crew, reputation, the entire season, on a corridor of Earth no one else had the nerve to touch. He's not chasing Tony. He's not chasing a number. He's chasing a moment that could define him forever. And then it happens. The seismic readout that changes everything. The techs crowd around the screen, tapping, zooming, recalibrating, because they think the machine glitched. But it didn't glitch. It's real. A buried paleo channel, an ancient riverbed, slithers beneath Parker's claim, but not in any shape nature normally carves. It curves back on itself, folds into twisted loops, and disappears beneath glacial debris like a vein actively trying to hide from discovery. Even the geologists admit the truth. This thing shouldn't exist. Not unless a catastrophic prehistoric flood tore through the valley thousands of years ago, ripped the landscape apart, and slammed pure mineralization into hidden chambers no map has ever recorded. Parker stares at the scan in silence. If this channel is what it appears to be, an untouched river frozen in time, then it's the perfect natural trap. The kind that collects gold not for decades, not for centuries, but for entire ages. The first test pans come back glowing, not speckled, not sprinkled, but heavy, overloaded to the point the flakes clump together like melted bark cooling on water. Crew members who've mined their whole lives can't find the words. They just look at each other, wide-eyed, shaking their heads. They all know exactly what this means. This isn't a good find. This is the kind of discovery people become legends over, the kind that fuels stories long after cameras stop rolling. But legends don't come easy, and this one definitely won't. As the machines start tearing into the corridor, the excavators scream like they're being pushed into depths they were never designed to reach. Hydraulic arms strain, tracks slip, sensors bark warnings that Parker ignores without hesitation. The deeper they go, the stranger the ground becomes. They hit massive boulders, but not the rounded glacier-washed stones crews normally find. These are fractured quartz boulders, jagged and stained dark by centuries of mineral seepage, like pressure-cooked treasures from the Earth's core waiting to be revealed. Every bucket that rises from the cut feels heavier than the last. Almost immediately, the wash plant starts falling behind, choking under the raw volume of pay. The material rolling in is too dense, too irregular, too rich for a single system to handle. Parker doesn't slow down. He doesn't shut down. Instead, he does the reckless thing, the Parker thing. He sets up a second recovery line alongside the first, welding and improvising until both plants are running simultaneously in a patchwork monster of hoses, rails, mesh, and raw stubbornness. It's a setup no manual would recommend and no inspector would allow, but it works for a few minutes. Then the groundwater hits. A surge bursts through a fissure in the lower cut, filling the pit with icy water so fast that the crew has to scramble to get machinery to higher ground. Pumps roar. Mud swirls. The ground threatens to liquefy beneath their feet. If they keep going, they risk losing the whole operation in one catastrophic slide. But Parker doesn't even blink. He wipes the mud off his face, stares at the churning chaos, and walks right back toward the rising water. Because within that water is pay dirt. Thick, heavy, shimmering pay that's being ripped from the pocket by the force of the surge. He kneels down, scoops some into his palm, and watches the gold streak across his glove like metallic pollen trying to escape. If the gold's fighting this hard to stay hidden, he mutters, that means it's worth more than we've ever seen. The crew knows that tone. It's the tone Parker only uses when he's crossed a line inside himself, when he's decided the risk doesn't matter anymore. When the camera zooms in on his face, there's no hesitation left, only resolve, only hunger, only the promise that he will tear the Yukon open inch by inch until he uncovers whatever this buried channel is hiding. The air shifts around the crew. They can feel it. That moment of internal switch is always the signal that whatever comes next won't be routine. It'll be something that pushes them past the edge. And that's exactly why, instead of shutting things down for the night, Parker orders one more sweep. Not drilling, not digging. A full-spectrum LiDAR pass, his way of proving to himself that the instinct consuming him is more than adrenaline. The team powers up the equipment, the glow of the monitors slicing through the dark, and as the grid begins to populate, the room falls silent. The scan hits the display in a burst of neon contours, mapping deeper than any previous attempt. And suddenly Parker's gamble transforms into something far bigger. Beneath the bedrock, hidden under layers so compacted they should have been impenetrable, the LiDAR reveals a series of submerged chambers, perfectly formed hollows, not shaped by erosion, but sealed with intention by ancient geological violence. Metallic signatures pulse from inside each pocket, spiking so sharply the software stalls, recalibrates, and spikes again. These aren't deposits, they're compressed masses, dense enough to mimic forged metal. Parker leans closer, breath fogging the screen as he traces the hollow outlines with a fingertip, feeling the weight of what might be trapped beneath them. In that moment, the truth hits him with full force. This isn't a channel anymore. This is a vault. Every number, every ripple of color on the scan points to a single reality. If the crew can reach these pockets before groundwater, collapse, or rivals interfere, this season won't just be good, it will be historic. A season that shatters every gold rush record ever filmed. A season that redefines what placer mining is even capable of. The crew gathers around the monitor in absolute silence, the glow illuminating their faces in eerie blues and greens. No yelling, no cheering. Just the realization that they're staring at the blueprint of a $100 million season, on paper, but only if they can pull the gold out before the Yukon devours them whole. At first light, the cuts roar back to life, machines lunging deeper, eating into the fractured quartz and compressed gravel like a pack of metallic beasts. By the time the first cleanup tray is dragged toward the table, everyone crowds around, tense, expectant, half convinced the scans are exaggerating. Then the moment the sluice mats are shaken out, the entire room turns silent. Instead of flakes scattering across the steel, the gold comes out in heavy ropes and clumps, moving not like dust or chips, but like thickened syrup. It slides, folds, and pools as if glued together by the sheer weight of purity. When the count begins, the numbers climb so fast the scale struggles to keep up. They blow past Parker's entire first 6 weeks from last season, gone, overtaken, eclipsed, from a single run. One cleanup, one shift, one cut. Nuggets the size of shot glasses tumble across the table as they sort the pile, smooth as polished marbles, shaped by millennia of pressure and movement. These aren't normal nuggets. These are relics of a prehistoric river that died violently and left behind the kind of gold that usually only exists in legends whispered around campfires. The crew can't contain themselves. Mitch swears under his breath. Tyson laughs in disbelief. Mateo just stands there, palms on the table, staring like the pile might start breathing. But Parker doesn't move. He doesn't grin. He doesn't pump a fist. He just watches, eyes narrowed, jaw tight. Because he understands something the others haven't processed yet. These numbers don't bring relief, they bring danger. Any season that starts this strong doesn't plateau. It either accelerates into impossible territory or burns out in catastrophe. And if the corridor keeps producing at this rate, he isn't competing with Tony anymore. He's chasing something far bigger: legacy, myth, history written in ounces instead of ink. And he knows history always exacts a price. The Yukon wastes no time spreading the rumors. Within days, whispers shoot through satellite camps, supply yards, fuel depots. Parker's Ghost Channel is producing numbers that make seasoned miners look like green rookies. They call it a freak formation, a cursed formation, a once-in-a-century formation. Some don't believe it at all until word reaches Tony Beats. Tony pushes his boundaries harder than he has in years. He sends crews deeper into his old cuts, revisiting ground he once dismissed as dead. If Parker really found a lost tributary, then there's a chance, just a chance, that it once fed through Tony's kingdom before the earth shifted and centuries of ice buried the truth. And if that's the case, Tony wants the source, not the leftovers. Rick Ness moves even quicker. He dispatches a small scout team under the radar, telling them to track the Paleo Channel upstream using abandoned survey markers and whatever satellite overlays they can pull. If Parker's secret vein crosses through the upper ridges, Rick wants to know before anyone else. Because whoever controls the entry point controls the future. There's no rule book for ancient underground rivers in the Yukon. There are boundaries on paper, sure. But underground? Underground is a different war. Old claim maps start resurfacing. Worn notebooks with scribbled coordinates. Decades-old surveys marked by cryptic shorthand. Sections where boundary lines were drawn, erased, drawn again. Places where early surveyors left signatures and then mysteriously scratched them out, as if something back then scared them off or forced them to hide the truth. The deeper Parker's crew digs, the more those old documents begin to make sense. Someone, long before Gold Rush cameras ever rolled, knew something was buried here, knew the land wasn't behaving normally, knew a channel existed that didn't follow any rules. Parker lays the maps across a table, tracing the looping path of the ancient river against the modern claim boundaries. The realization hits him like a punch to the chest. This channel might not just run through his claim, it might run under it, across it, beyond it, stretching into regions controlled by rivals who will do anything, absolutely anything, to tap into a formation capable of producing $100 million in a single season. The ground beneath him is no longer just his opportunity. It's the spark at the center of a brewing war. And with every ounce they pull, every cleanup tray they empty, and every rumor that spreads beyond his camp, the Yukon grows more restless, more watchful, more dangerous. Because now everyone knows Parker isn't just chasing gold. He's standing on top of something ancient, something powerful, something that was never meant to be disturbed. The pressure closes in from all sides, rivals tightening their boundaries, old-timers whispering warnings, and the land itself beginning to feel like it's shifting under the weight of what he's uncovering. Even the weather turns strange, heavy with the kind of electricity that always precedes trouble up here. That tension snaps without warning. The storm rolls in fast, pounding the channel with sheets of cold rain that hammer the cut into instability. The ground, already stressed from weeks of excavation, starts to pulse under their boots with a deep warning tremor. A low groan rises from the earth, followed by the gut-twisting crack of an entire slope breaking loose. The eastern wall of the corridor slumps forward in a rolling avalanche of wet gravel and fractured quartz. collapsing so violently it swallows the sound of the storm for a heartbeat. A loader stationed too close to the lip doesn't stand a chance. Its front end plunges into a forming slurry pit, sinking halfway before the operator can even throw it into reverse. Alarms explode across the site. Radios crackle with shouts. Ropes whip across the pit as the crew fights to anchor the machine before the mud takes it under. Pumps scream against the rising muck. Inch by inch, with boots sliding and rain blinding them, they drag the loader back onto solid ground, its tires dripping with gold-streaked sludge that proves one chilling thing. The land isn't done fighting them. When the chaos settles, the air hangs thick with steam from the churned-up earth. The pit still bubbles like a wounded beast. Even the veterans start murmuring about shutting everything down. The collapse could have been lethal. One more minute, one wrong move, and the entire operation might have buried half the crew. Parker walks the edge of the new fissure, mud clinging to his boots, eyes tracking the fracture lines that run deeper than any previous cut. He's about to call the shutdown. The words form on his lips until something glitters in the debris. A streak of gold-laced sediment spills from the newly exposed wall, shimmering under the floodlights like someone cracked open a vein made of money. It isn't stray flakes or scattered fines. It's dense, pressed material, layered in a way that suggests it hasn't seen daylight in thousands of years. The collapse didn't just expose the next stretch of pay. It broke open a sealed vault, a deeper, untouched runway of concentrated channel gold trapped behind compacted silt. Parker crouches, grabs a handful, and feels its weight. He knows this texture, this density. This is the kind of pay dirt miners spend their entire lives chasing. He looks back at his soaked crew, exhausted, rattled, waiting for his verdict. Then he gives the order, calm but sharp. We're going in, carefully, slowly, but we're going in. It's insane, it's dangerous. It's exactly what every instinct in him demands. Because the storm didn't just tear the cut apart, it opened the path to the heart of the channel. At dawn, they hit the ground like a renewed army. Pumps reroaded, walls reinforced, machines inching toward the exposed vault with surgical precision. And as soon as the first buckets reach the wash plant, the dirt starts telling its story. The mats fill so fast they look like trays being dipped in molten gold. Nuggets, flour, fragments. It all pours through at a pace that pushes the plant beyond anything it was designed for. Parker doesn't throttle back. Instead, he radios the far pit and fires up the second plant. It's reckless, brilliant, and absolutely necessary. By noon, they're tracking the numbers, and the numbers are impossible. The scales tip past 1,000 ounces before lunch. The air goes silent. They film every weigh-in because the ounces stack too fast to trust memory. No modern miner, no documented operation has ever pulled this kind of volume in such a short window. Unless you're talking fictional legends or old-timer tall tales whispered in Yukon bars. But this isn't a story. It's happening right in front of them. By sunset, the tally crosses 2,000 ounces. 2,000 ounces, a full $1 million in a single day at current gold prices. A $1 million day, real, recorded, undeniable. Mitch leans against the scale, hands shaking, trying to comprehend what he's witnessing. Tyson laughs like he's lost his mind. Mateo films everything because he knows no one back home will ever believe it. The mats look like they've been dipped into a river of gold and lifted out dripping. Even at the height of the celebration, Parker stays strangely reserved. He steps away from the noise, staring at the horizon where the channel runs dark into the hills. When Mitch joins him, Parker doesn't raise his voice. He just whispers, "No one's going to believe this unless we show them." It isn't bragging, it's survival. Because numbers like this don't stay secret. Numbers like this start wars. The next morning, the deeper cut reveals something entirely new, something no scan or map predicted. The excavator teeth hit a strange resistance beneath the channel floor, not solid rock and not loose gravel. A curved depression, perfectly shaped, almost suspiciously smooth. When they scoop into it, the pay dirt behaves differently. It doesn't tumble, it slumps. Flower gold blooms through the water like liquid sunlight, fine as dust, yet unbelievably rich. Mixed into it are crystalline fragments, Not quartz, not anything they've seen in placer formations before. Shards that shimmer like someone shattered a nugget and scattered it atom by atom. This isn't a normal pay zone. It's a trap. A perfect natural funnel shaped over thousands of years, collecting every piece of gold the ancient river ever carried. Every scoop of material from the pocket feels unnaturally heavy, metallic in its density, as if the earth itself condensed the weight into each handful. The crew can feel it when they lift the buckets. This isn't dirt hiding gold. This is gold wearing a thin coat of dirt. When the first analyses return, the room goes silent. Purity levels peak higher than anything Parker has pulled in his entire career. Higher than the best streaks from the boundary cut. Higher than the legendary pay from Scribner Creek. Higher even than the early days when he shocked the mining world with numbers no teenager should have been capable of. This pocket isn't feeding the channel. This pocket created it. Parker realizes they've found the mother pocket, the heart of the ancient river, the singular geological event that made this entire corridor possible. The reason every test pan overflowed, the reason the channel twisted, curved, and doubled back like a living thing trying to bury its secret. The reason the gold density defied science. Everything they've uncovered this season funnels into this one revelation. This pocket is why the channel exists. This pocket is why the lighter spiked. This pocket is why they broke $1 million in a day. And staring into that dense, impossible depression, Parker understands something that shakes him more than the discovery itself. They're only beginning to grasp what they've unearthed. That's why he pushes harder, faster, deeper. The pace becomes brutal, the machines running longer than they should. The crew racing to rip every ounce from the pocket before the weather, the rivals, or the land itself can take it back. And under that relentless pressure, something finally gives. The breakdown hits just as Parker closes in on numbers no miner has ever touched. A grinding snap slices through the cut like a gunshot. The primary wash plant jolts, shudders, and its central shaft shears clean in half. Metal fragments whip across the gravel pad, pinging off dozer blades and fuel drums as the plant groans into silence. For a heartbeat, the entire claim freezes. This is the kind of catastrophic failure that can shut down an operation for days, maybe weeks. But Parker doesn't even blink. He's already ripping off his gloves, hauling out the portable welder, sparks erupting in the cold Yukon air before anyone has time to protest. Diesel fumes thicken around him, frost climbing the hoses, the night so cold it hurts to breathe. And still he welds like he's trying to beat time itself. Reckless, desperate, necessary. By dawn, against every safety manual ever written, the plant roars back to life with a patchwork repair held together by steel, stubbornness, and sheer willpower. Parker doesn't stop for a speech. He doesn't explain. He just flashes the crew a raw, sleep-starved grin and says, "We're breaking every record today." The cleanup started like any other, but the first tray didn't behave like any other. Gold didn't just shimmer. It cascaded, overflowing before they could even level the riffles. It hit the pan in a dense, glittering sheet that made everyone freeze. Mitch let out a low whistle. Tyson muttered, "That can't be right." But it was. The scale ticked upward, steady and brutal, past Parker's best season, past Tony's best season, past every televised record, every Klondike legend, every figure old-timers swore would never be touched again. They hit 5,000 ounces. They hit 7,000. And then in a moment no one on that claim will ever forget, the counter passed the impossible threshold, the number that rewrote the entire history of northern mining. $120 million in gold. In a single season. The air went still. Even the camera crew didn't breathe. Parker just stared at the numbers, jaw set tight, like he wasn't sure whether to laugh or collapse. When the dust finally settled, the pile didn't look real. It didn't look earthly. 30 pounds of gold, then 50, then more. A mound so bright it cast its own glow under the shop lights. A sight that felt stolen from another era. Parker stood over it with a kind of stunned reverence. He hadn't just outmined the Yukon. He had outmined the legends who defined it. Rivals who spent years taking shots at him had nothing to say. Old-timers wandered onto the claim just to shake their heads, whispering that not even the wildest Klondike boom ever produced numbers like this. And somewhere in the quiet hum of the sluice room, the weight of it all finally hit him. Not the gold, the cost. The nights awake, the wells that shouldn't have held, the mistakes he didn't let break him, the pressure of chasing something no one believed he could reach. He didn't celebrate. He didn't shout. He just let out a slow, shaking breath, eyes locked on the most valuable single-season haul in modern mining history. The season didn't end with fireworks. It ended with awe. A once-in-a-generation strike. A discovery that would be talked about for decades. And the moment Parker Schnabel crossed from being a great miner to being the miner everyone else would be measured against.